Hey, what's up out there, everybody? David Cravens with the Relentless Hope Podcast. Back down here again at the 239 Live Trailer Park. And it's crazy because the guest we got today knows a little bit about where I used to live at. Because you know I am. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I wrote that song 25 years ago, just so you know, about the trailer park that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But you know who I got over to the right of me. She was over to the left, not to the right, but it don't matter as long as she's not out of my sight. Let me hear you. I got my beautiful wife, the beautiful Savage.
What's up, everybody? Happy
What?
to be here.
You're supposed to let your thing sing it, not you sing it.
I can't help it.
Savage girl. I
hear
like
it
your
and I start
hair.
singing.
Looking cute there.
Thanks, bud.
Hey, we were down here on the 239 Live. I can't believe it. Tim Jarrett let me in here.
Wow.
He let me get on the live. He's trying to cut me down over there.
High class, wide
Pat didn't know what to say.
You
It
made
was nah. I love Tim Jarrett. We love the 239 Live family. We got D Money over there on the controls.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's my girl. Making it happen.
All right.
buddy.
Well, without further ado, it's crazy how, you always hear the term small world, small town, small world. And I usually say small town. But
What are the chances?
the other day, as you guys know, Jackson runs all our social media. So he has a, we have a meeting in the morning if he's not mad and eating Fruity Pebbles like us.
Temperamental.
But nah, I love him.
He's a
But
teenager.
he tells me who's following stuff, who's liking stuff, who's sharing stuff, who's not sharing stuff, who's tagging us and stuff. He gives me the rundown of our
Lowdown.
meeting of who to get moved to our favorites. If somebody's liking my stuff and sharing it, they go to my favorites and I start liking their stuff. And, then there's some people that we just love and give love to. But anyway, he's been telling me lately, he said, man, there's a guy named JT on our Instagram, man. He's been liking all the reels, leaving comments. I'm like, well, heck, man, following back, start, telling thank you, giving him love and crazy. So we're doing the live show and I noticed I'm sitting over there. We get done. Without further ado, JT since Little League.
Come on.
What's up, JT Thompson, man? What is up?
JT.
Now listen, the irony in this, okay? You guys a lot of know my story, especially a lot of people from P-Town watch this podcast, even the haters. Appreciate you guys too. And I love you. Keep giving. They watch it more. Actually, people that hate on you watch you more silently than people that love you. But so we get done and we're talking and then JT's like, man, you from Peoria? I'm like, yeah, bro. And he's like, you used to go to Rockies? I'm like, buddy, they used to call me the mayor of Rockies. That's how much I was
That's
at
scary.
that bar. You know what I mean? I went from when we had good dollar ladies nights to we had the police and fights lady nights, back to no ladies at all, just me and the bartender. She was a lady. It was your sister most of the time.
That's right.
And then, so I lived in the trailer park behind Rockies is why I went up there so much because I didn't have to drive and I didn't have a driver's license and probably wasn't supposed to be in a bar. But JT is from Peoria, same thing. So he's from my hometown. So what's up, JT?
Oh man, it's just just so blessed to connect with people.
Yeah.
From, a lot of people don't know about the River City.
No,
Pekin and
man,
Peoria.
it was crazy.
All my boys call it the Ken.
Yeah.
So I grew up, and
Yeah.
then all my buddies are Chicago boys.
Yeah,
from,
right. Oh, yeah. 'Cause we're out.
college, and then my brother played ball after Pekin at Illinois
Right.
State. So
Wow.
it was just I came in here. My sister was like, "Hey, you know that guy is David Cravens from Peoria," and I remember the name because
Right.
I left there.
Yeah, right.
When I was 18 to go off to college. And she was like, yeah, he used to live at Rockies.
Yeah, man, I used to-
She bartended there.
Crazy.
I was
She's-
like, shut up.
And she's seen me get into it. She's seen me be crazy. She's seen all of it. I was a wild dude in Rockies, and I apologize for all those times that you had to cut me off and make me leave, and I acted crazy to your sister because I was
God
nuts.
bless you.
She's got nothing but love for you.
Yeah,
She
man.
was smiling ear to ear. when
Yeah,
said that
I
to her.
took care of like a lot of them people in there. I could get people out of there because I was like like you said, like at Cheers. That's how it was for me because I'd go up there and eat because I lived there. You know what I mean? I'd go up there and drink. I'd go up there and do whatever. I was crazy up there. But that was a good bar at one time. That was because there used to be a lot of Bradley students came to Rockies, and then a lot of the thugs came in, and then it went crazy. It went through different times because if I remember, a guy used to own it named Kim, too. Yeah,
exactly.
Kim, yeah. And they used to play a song when I rocked in there. They used to play a Kid Rock song when I'd walk in.
Jesus.
And the DJ, I think his name was Rick at that time, he'd be like, Dave Cravens is in the house, and they'd start playing a song. Anyway, I was wild. They were good to me. The bartender. There's a lot of times they kept me from going to jail when I should have went to jail there too. So
that's why we take care of our bartenders.
That's right. A lot of times they sent me home when I needed to go home, but I didn't think I needed to. So shout out to P-Town. But it's crazy because you just started, and you didn't know I was from Peoria. No. You just kind of got on us through the 239 Live and Pat. So, it's awesome to see two guys that ain't lived the best life. I know I haven't. I was a little crazy, and just hearing your story a little bit, you've been through it too. But everything comes full circle.
100%.
And you were sharing off camera a little bit of your story with us, and it started touching my heart, man. You know what I mean? And we were sharing stuff of what's been going and who we're going to get into, and man, I want to tell you, and this is one thing that my wife and I try to practice to all the people on there, that I'm proud of you. Doesn't mean nothing a lot of times, and then some people it does. But to see a local boy down here doing things and then going, I know what you got to do. It ain't like it's all sunshine and rainbows what you've been through. Yeah. You've been through some craziness, but you're getting up, you're showing up, you're taking a step out to change people's lives. You know what I mean? And
it's I'm being called by God, man.
Yeah.
There's so many things happening in my life right now, and I feel like I've lived a few lives at 49.
Yes.
I came down here 20 years ago, and you went through some stuff the last year, and it damaged me. It hurt me, but it didn't beat me.
No.
I had to go fight the man in the mirror.
That's right.
And did that. And through God's grace and compassion, I found that guy that I hadn't seen in a long time, but I found a more compassionate version.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. It's crazy, when you say Rockies, and a lot of times when it comes to addiction in our life or things, you always talk about the fun stuff. Like, I used to go up there, but I don't think of, wiring people's. I remember at Rockies one afternoon where I broke a dude's jaw in 4 places, you know what I'm saying, and jacked him up, and he still can't eat right, you know what I'm saying? And then to me, he got smart and he got hit, you know what I mean? That's the way it went, but there was a lot of anger in me, and you take me at 51, and we were talking about the haters, and I make a lot of joke about it, but sometimes I really have to, again, man, you said everything we're saying earlier off camera is on. You said the mental stuff. If I don't go back sometimes and redo that, man, I'll start beating myself up like, man, you did a lot of bad stuff, and that's why it makes me proud. Your sister knew me as a crazy dude, but the guy I am now. Who would have said Dave Cravens was going to make a song for the sheriff? Who said Dave Cravens was going to make a song that when they raid the drug houses, they play our song over their body cameras?
Yeah.
Right? Not in Lee County, right? No. Who would think? But my whole life is to try to restore marriages, and through telling our story and what God done, and to try to get people to get clean and sober and get off drugs and leave a legacy for their family. You know what I'm saying? And
such
change
an inspiration.
It,
Such an inspiration. And I'm new to social media. I never used it in my previous businesses down here or up in Chicago.
Wow.
And which means you were good.
Yeah, exactly. And I never used it personally. Yeah. So, after I'm kind of being pulled and called, I like to call by God, into this new career I'm doing, which is speaking on men's mental health in particular. And then now on cancer, because I got diagnosed with cancer, like right in the middle of my storm. I get hit with a cancer diagnosis.
Share what you want, man. Like we're real here. You can share as much as you want. You can share as less as you want. You can share the headlines, tap dance around it. I want you, because you shared off camera. I want you to talk a little bit, whatever you want, what some of your storm was, and when the point was, you go, hey, I got to do this. You know what I mean? Share a little bit about it, bro. Because
appreciate that. Yeah. So I grew up in P-Town and left there in '93. Did Navy, was a Navy guy, and then college.
Thank you for serving.
Thank you. Yeah, was a Big Ten guy. Went to Indiana, and then started out in financial services. Mm-hmm. My dad was a Caterpillar guy.
Imagine that. The big yellow God, we call it where we come from.
Everybody, him and his 5 brothers.
Yep, the big yellow. We were talking about Caterpillar. Yep. I worked at I've had a couple jobs at Caterpillar over the years, got fired a couple times, quit.
So we were a Caterpillar family. And, when I left there, I really didn't come back that much because I'd go to Chicago and see friends. So I ended up working for a company called Edward Jones because my dad had a friend that always rolled through town from his high school days, and I knew that the dude did well. And I was like, hey, what does Mike do? He's like, oh, he's a stockbroker with Edward Jones. Right. So I was like, I want to do that someday. So I did that out of the Navy in college, and that brought me down to South Florida. I ended up getting headhunted by a wirehouse, Smith Barney at the time, and went to their office in Boca, lived in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm, a Midwest guy. Mm-hmm. This is 2004.
Different world.
Yeah, mid-late 20s, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Living right on Las Olas.
Crazy.
I was like,
different world.
I was like, I'm never leaving here. I think it took 7 months to where I was like, okay, I'm not on vacation. I actually have to work here, So, like a lot of people, I migrated over to Naples in 2005, met a girl. And I'd never been in Naples, and Naples was a lot different when I came over here 20 years ago.
Oh, way different.
There was no North Naples.
No, there wasn't all these community. I mean, every other place there's a gated community. It wasn't like that.
No, it was. And I lived at Bayfront, right by Fifth.
Okay.
So we just walk over to Fifth, and Fifth was happening, but nothing like it is now.
Yeah, not crazy.
Like a sleepy retirement. So I started a business, a side hustle. My brother got done playing ball and would come down and visit, and I'm like, if you want to move down here, let's figure something out. Because he was bartending on campus there in Bloomington, Illinois State. So I put him in a truck and we started a little maintenance company. It really took off.
Right.
And
Midwest work ethic.
Midwest work ethic, man. Yep. Under promise, over deliver.
Do what you say you're gonna do.
Exactly.
Show up on time. You don't even got to be the best down here. You just show up. You can make some money.
Dave, and it started. I started on the East Coast, so you got a lot over there. You got like Silver Tongue, New York guys. And property managers would call me, and construction managers. They'd be like, "Man, you guys showed up on time. Can you do this?" And I didn't know how to do it. But like, sure we can.
Sure we can.
Can you do that,
buddy? Same thing here, man. I moved pool tables. Besides doing other curricular activities in Illinois, my dad still, who taught me how to do it, moved a pool table yesterday in Peoria. And I came down here, and people started going, when will you move it? I go, we'll move it tomorrow. We'll be there at night. Tomorrow? And you look back 20 years later, we give jobs away.
Those aren't easy to move. I moved one when I left. I'll share that a little in a second, but I ended up leaving after being in Naples for 15 years, back up to Chicago, and we had a big estate move. I was married at the time, 3 young kids, grand piano, like all,
heavy stuff.
That's heavy stuff. So anyway, I started that business. It did well. And then I got married a little later in life, back in 2013, and we gave that a good run and had kids right away. 3 kids in 4 years. So blessed, beautiful, awesome.
Yes.
Little soldiers for Christ.
Oh, man.
And I went through a divorce.
Yeah.
And in 2020, it kind of started, and we were like, well, let's to save the marriage. We were like, okay, let's move. We moved back up to Chicago,
right?
And just same problems, different area code, and the divorce, was final in 2022. So, I had been blessed growing up. Very humble beginnings, and I'd done pretty well down here in my late 20s and 30s and early 40s. And, it overnight, like my life was upended from the divorce. Yeah. Biggest thing was, the kids not being in my bed every morning, every night. So I started my day. So I ended my day.
Hard.
Yeah. It was tough. So, like a lot of guys, I didn't deal with my mental health then.
We don't.
I'd never done that. I had 35, 40 employees, and I was putting out fires, and I always got this. I'm in my old selfish ways. I ain't got a problem. I'm not drinking too much. I'm not,
That's
what we do, man.
Yes.
I got this, and I didn't, and it got out of hand. And I never believed in mental health.
Right.
I had no compassion for it. If somebody told me they're depressed, I'm like, well, just get your shit together and
it'll be okay.
Tighten up.
Yeah, until depression hit me. Like square in the nose. And like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a game plan until you get punched in the nose, So I didn't know how to deal with it. I never had, dealt with that in the past. Never been depressed more than a day in my life.
Yeah. You looked at it as a bad day and moved on.
Bad day. And the bad day turned into a week, a month,
right.
A year.
A year.
So, and then I do what a lot of people have done, I drank.
Yeah.
And drank more
Try to
because
cope.
alcohol is such a tricky drug.
It's acceptable.
Well,
Everybody, yeah.
and Dave, alcohol, a lot of people don't know. It's a stimulant, but it's a depressant.
It's a depressant.
We just were talking about this yesterday, day before. I was like, alcohol, everybody thinks it's a fun drink, but it's a depressant, bro.
Yeah.
You not get out of bed for 3 days,
And bro, like I had never drank anything but socially. I had my nights where, got after it too much and paid for it the next day, but it was a social thing.
Yeah.
I was drinking then to stop the voices.
Yeah.
And to just like
the inside.
Yeah. And again, it'd stimulate you to like be able to just focus on a show or just go to bed because you don't want to be up anymore.
Yeah.
But the next day, the depressant hits.
Here it comes.
You gotta go again.
Like,
The revolving door, man.
And I had, PTSD from my Navy days that I walked away from, like a lot of soldiers and sailors out there.
Soldiers. We don't do
A lot
enough.
of vets.
Yeah. Soldiers
I never
coming
dealt
back,
with
man.
it. And I think the trauma from my divorce brought a lot of that up. I know it did in hindsight now. And I finally, I would go to a treatment center, get sober. I would talk a little bit about mental health, but never dig into it.
You
And
just stay the surface. You just scratch the surface.
And I'd get out, I'd feel great, I'd be healthy, I'd be sober, and then shit would start back up again. I'd start living my life, social drinking, but I was still depressed from the divorce. And it wasn't until last year I had a therapist at the VA that said, why don't we talk about your PTSD? I didn't even know she knew that. Like, it's in my service jacket, but this is from 25 years ago.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you know about that? She's like, it's in your service jacket. I'm like, I don't talk about that.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't like. And I didn't. Nobody knew about that.
Right.
My parents, like
Nobody.
ex-wife, nobody. So, with a lot of pushing and prodding and digging, I started talking about it, and hundreds of hours of cognitive behavioral therapy, like it all came out.
Wow.
I would just stare at the floor a lot of times.
Yeah,
and get to that
What
part, and
was,
I'd like, next time we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It took
Because you didn't want to bring it up,
No.
Painful.
Yeah.
Well, that's the part when you're doing the work, man. And a lot of people think, oh, man, I'll go to therapy, I'll go counseling. That's not weakness. That's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, bro, and, I shared with you off camera things that happened to me as a kid that somebody did that to my kids, you know what I mean? And I held that for 40 some odd years, bro. And not till I talked about it. When they say the truth will set you free and talking about it, man, I wish somebody would have said, dude, you're going to talk to somebody. I'd be a millionaire, and who knows, all the hearts I wouldn't have broke along the way and decisions. But you know what? The thing is, you made the choice to go there, and you're getting on there. And I hate, I can see your heart, and I know as a father when when the kids aren't in the bed, and I know when the quietness of the house, and you're hey, yeah, everybody. Then when you lay down and watch that ceiling fan at night, you know what I mean? We call it ceiling fan times. And, man, it's hard. And I commend you because a lot of dads wouldn't be trying to fly there and back here and over there and that, man. And so you're doing good, man. I'm not saying you're perfect, but you're doing what you got to do with the situation you are. And, you recognize that. And what you recognize is, we go in and we get therapy, us Christian counseling is what we go by, but whatever you need to do to get it right. And you do it for yourself, but you're also doing it for the legacy when you leave.
100%.
That passes it down to your kids when they get married, and their kids when they get married. And I've been married. I mean, how many times? Okay, we won't even count into it. I'm sure somebody will leave it. Somebody will tell it. They'll be like, "Well, I remember 1989." Well, yeah, I had it. I probably did. But it's not how you start the race; it's how you finish it.
100%.
Right?
Life is a marathon.
Yeah, and you're going through this. So I'm working now on the person that I am. To be the best person with me, the best person under the man, her hero, the best husband I can be, and then trickle down. So when my kids and my daughters get married, they know, hey, my dad did this, but that's the legacy we're leaving. So that's what you're doing.
That hits home with me so much because my kids are everything.
They're
to me.
everything.
And it's not about the legacy with the money stuff.
Nah, that's
I want them to say, man, when I'm gone someday, hopefully 40 years I'll get. I don't know. I'm 49. So
you'll get some.
Yeah. So
by the time they'll come up with something, it might be an old school energy drink. It might be a clean cause energy drink that make us last forever. Okay,
exactly.
back to that.
So the legacy I want is them when they're talking about me, the man. I remember my dad did this with me.
Right.
I remember when I was having a shitty day and my dad did this.
Right.
Or I remember we went to this, lake house.
Yeah.
Not the toys and the stuff that they
but
bought.
being together. And listen, man, the stuff too, and I know divorces. I know the other sides of stuff. I've been on some lies on the other side, and I've been on some truths of the other side that they've said was true that I did too. But I've been on some lies too. It didn't go that way. Yeah. And sometimes kids get used as pawns, not even when the adult. There's been times I've used my children in a thing and not even realize I was using them to try to get back at somebody that I've had to try to recorrect, not do that, but as kids get older, they start to know. They'll know, hey, and I'm not saying this one way or the other. I don't know your ex or anybody. I'm not saying that's happening, but I'm just saying, sometimes they're like, man, will they, now that my kids are older, they know who takes care of stuff. They know who, I had to years later, and my dad, which leading into what else you went through, my real father died of cancer. He finally had it 2 months later. He was gone. Was a good friend, and later in life, he would be there for what he could, me growing up. But I used to put him on a pedestal. And anytime my mom would say something, I'd be like, nah, he'd be. But years later, and especially now, I've had to come back and apologize to my mom and say, I was hard on you. You know what I mean? I didn't realize I did this, and this. So, sometimes when you're not there, the way the family unit, how you would love for it to be, and I'm sure they would love for it to be, they're paying attention to the small stuff. And when I say the small stuff, sometimes it's not about this, man. I mean, that's cool. We want our kids to be taken care of. We want to go that. But it's about those moments. The best moments when we take all our kids just to hop last minute, go to Busch Gardens or last minute.
And you look around and you just a quiet moment and you get your kids there and you just look at your wife and you're like, man, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, it's all.
Thankful,
and I said something the other day, man. I mean, today on the live, my son Jackson, he's 15. And he runs all our socials, and he's a 15-year-old kid. When I think of me at 15,
very intelligent.
Yeah. Kid. When I think, I know he's like, is mom okay? Does mom need some bubble gum? Does mom need a Reese cup? I'm like, what about me, buddy? Yeah, right. He takes care.
He's a great boy.
But last week we made a post the other day, and I don't know what day Jackson put it. I think it was yesterday, the day before. It's called the 3 C's: choices, chances, change.
Love it.
And one thing I like to do, sometimes you'll get caught up in reels. You get caught up in, man, his hat looks good. Oh, man, they always match. Their shoes are good. And we didn't plan out doing that. We didn't start out, but then it just is kind of how we operate. Not everybody operates like ours does, but you start going that. But then people start to see this persona of you. And then you run into a dude at a gas station when you're hot moving a pool table. And he's looking at you, and you're like, what are you looking at, dude? He's like, you're the hope guy. And I'm like, no, this is a guy about to smack you in the mouth. Yeah. But because I'm a real person, right? And not every day am I like, oh, this motivational and Jesus. And yeah, I love Jesus. He changed my life. And yeah, I love to be positive. And I try to direct my day in that. But, there was a couple of days this week that we wasn't handling everything the way we should by talking. And I wasn't talking to Jahnna the way I should. I wasn't talking to the kids the way I should. I was taking frustration of business and being tired, and my hands, I'm getting older, and I cover 3 or 4 sets of pool tables in a row in a day, and my hand locks up.
That's why you got those claws when I shook your hand. For one, I knew he was from Peoria because us River City.
He's got some mitts,
we're tough
right?
guys.
Yeah, we've been known to, I don't like to say it, but, we'll get into that too. But and I get done. So me and Jackson and I was riding, I'm working on my grammar. Jackson and I was riding to pick up a set of pool table rails in the evening after the workday. And he just had a little bad attitude, and he's got his headphones on. I'm trying to talk to him. And I go, you know what, man? And I sucked the life out of him with my words, bro. You know what I mean? I should have had some restraint and been able to, just because you got something to say don't mean you need to say it at that 100%. Time. And I berated him. You know what I mean? And young teenagers are little women and little men. That's all he is. He's just a littler man, but he's a man.
And they're sponges.
And so I said, man, I said, you know what? You've been so lazy lately, man. You ain't did this. You ain't done that. I said, you're trying. I don't know. I said, when my son gets back, let me know. And I looked at him. I said, Jackson, when my son gets back, let me know. And I watched the life get sucked out of his face. And Jackson's he's
soft-hearted.
If you go back and watch anything of him being a little kid, like they did a video at church. They're like, who do you not want to let down? He's like, my dad. And anything, it's always, because your dad, you want to be there. I said, let me know when my son gets back. And typical Craven's humor and how we are, we turned the corner. And I said, you guys are all ungrateful. Let me know when my son gets back. And we were heading, and there was a homeless guy walking with a backpack and a dog. And he goes, well, you could be that guy. I go, well, at least he's got a dog. And he goes, well, at least you got kids and a wife. Your life ain't that bad, buddy. That's what my 15-year-old son said to me.
Buddy.
And you know what? I went the next morning, and she'll tell you, probably wrote one of the best songs I've wrote in a while called My Life's Pretty Good is the name of it. And it just talks about my life's good.
And it came from just that, because
simple.
I'm like you. My dad is everything.
Yeah.
And if my dad told me, son, I'm pissed at you.
Yeah.
I love you, but I'm very disappointed.
Oh, those words.
Once he said disappointed, I broke.
Sucks the life out of you.
Because that's the person you respect
the
most in your life.
So going back to, us being from Peoria, like he was saying, I say this a lot, man, and I'll say it again, and I'm sure somebody will have something to say. When I first moved to Florida, I was like, and I wasn't, I was out in bars a little bit. I was like, y'all talk a lot around here. He's like, what do you mean? I said, where I come from, buddy, Mike Boland would have done knocked you out. You know what I mean? Like, you could, like where I mean, and it was true though. Where we come from, bar fights, you just get in. You better be careful what you're saying. You got to fight, And
it's so funny you say that because I lived out in California about 15 years ago in Orange County, and I'd be in Newport Beach, at a nice place, and be with a female, and guys would send a girl over right in front of me to say stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know how y'all roll, but we don't do this.
Yeah,
you don't.
That's
just like that. Bad things happen.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get because the Midwest, we're rough around the edges, and but like you don't like something else I've had to learn down here in Florida is you don't badmouth another tradesman.
No.
Like if another pool table guy where I'm from, you don't talk about the other pool table guy, the other roofer, the other whoever it is. You know what I mean? Construction guy. Where we're from, you might go out and your truck not be there. You might go out and your worker not be there no more.
It shows bad character.
And down here,
you might walk out to
you
blast right in the mouth.
And so I had to learn that. And now as I'm getting older, obviously, and trying to be mature and raise my kids, I try. They listen to my stories and they're like, man, you're crazy. But I tell them all that a lot of times to tell them how proud I am of them. That this things happen to me that I tried to avoid that they don't happen to. And this is where I got to be thankful for Jahnna is, she's raised my 3 younger kids and they're not her biological kids, but I've had full custody of them all. And, Jackson, that's his mother, man. He's 15. That's his mom, And she had plenty of time she could ran. You know what I mean? Like the other day, she's like, I'm too old for this. Cause
she might go running out of here. At some
yeah,
point.
she's,
better watch out, lock the doors.
And she goes, but,
run, Florence,
but
run.
we go through it. So I know, man, that you're a good dad. I know that you things don't always end up. We don't understand it. But just stay the race, bro. You know what I mean? Keep doing which I know you're going to.